Maya had been scanning groceries and smiling at customers for 3 years. But when she noticed the same men buying specific items in a pattern that triggered her FBI training, the quiet cashier realized her undercover assignment was about to become very real. I wonder where you're watching this from today. Whether you're in a small town or a busy city, you've probably been served by someone like Maya. Cashiers who know your regular purchases, who remember your name, who seem like part of the furniture in your daily routine. But how well do you really know the people who see you at your most ordinary moments? Today's story will change how you think about the invisible workers who witness our everyday lives. Maya Chen looked exactly like what she was supposed to be, an unremarkable 28-year-old cashier at FreshMart grocery store in suburban Denver. She wore the same blue vest as her colleagues, kept her black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and had mastered the art of pleasant but forgettable customer service. Paper or plastic? She'd ask with a smile that was warm but not memorable. Did you find everything you needed? Her voice was soft, her movements efficient, and her presence so neutral that customers often forgot her face before they reached their cars. For 3 years, Maya had maintained this carefully crafted persona. She lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment within walking distance of the store, drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and had built relationships with coworkers that were friendly but not deep. She attended the occasional work party, contributed to birthday collections, and was known as the reliable employee who never called in sick. But Maya Chen, the cashier, was a fiction. The woman behind the blue vest was FBI Special Agent Maya Patel, and FreshMart was her assignment, not her career. 18 months earlier, the FBI's Human Trafficking Task Force had identified a disturbing pattern. Missing persons cases in suburban Denver were spiking, particularly young women and teenagers who seemed to vanish without trace. The disappearances weren't random, they followed supply routes, clustered around specific neighborhoods, and occurred with timing that suggested coordination. Intelligence indicated that traffickers were using legitimate businesses as fronts, establishing networks in plain sight where they could observe potential targets and coordinate operations. Grocery stores were perfect for this purpose. They drew customers from wide geographic areas, provided natural gathering points, and maintained databases of customer information through loyalty programs. Maya's assignment had been simple in concept: integrate into the staff of FreshMart, observe customer patterns, and identify any individuals or groups who seemed to be using the store for purposes beyond grocery shopping. It was the kind of long-term undercover work that required infinite patience and the ability to blend into suburban normalcy. For the first year, she'd found nothing suspicious. FreshMart seemed to be exactly what it appeared: a busy grocery store serving a diverse community. Maya had begun to wonder if the intelligence was wrong, if the trafficking network was operating elsewhere, or if her cover had been too effective for criminals to reveal themselves around her. That changed when she started noticing the patterns. It began with purchases that didn't quite make sense. 3 different men, shopping at different times but buying similar combinations of items: rope, duct tape, zip ties, bleach, and disposable phones. Individually, each purchase could be explained. Collectively, they formed a profile that made Maya's trained instincts scream warnings. The first man was Mark Stevens, a regular customer who usually bought standard groceries for what appeared to be a family of 4. But twice in the past month, he'd made unusual purchases: industrial cleaning supplies, restraint items, and electronics that suggested surveillance rather than household use. The second was Carlos Martinez, who typically shopped for construction supplies at the store's hardware section. Recently, he'd added items to his cart that had nothing to do with building projects: prepaid credit cards, hair dye, and clothing in sizes that clearly didn't fit him. The third was David Kim, who normally purchased health food and fitness supplements. His recent additions included items that triggered every human trafficking indicator Maya had memorized during her federal training: temporary tattoo kits, makeup designed to cover bruises, and over-the-counter medications used to keep people sedated. Individually, these could be coincidences. Together, they formed a pattern that suggested coordination, planning, and purposes that had nothing to do with legitimate shopping. Maya began tracking their visits more carefully, noting times, companions, and interaction patterns. What she discovered confirmed her worst suspicions. The 3 men weren't acting independently. They coordinated their visits, communicated through subtle signals, and had established a routine that allowed them to exchange information while appearing to be casual shoppers. Maya observed them using a simple but effective system. Mark Stevens would leave coded messages by moving specific products to designated locations on shelves. Carlos Martinez would retrieve these messages and leave responses in bathroom stalls using graffiti that looked like random vandalism. David Kim would photograph these messages with his phone and relay information to external contacts. But the most disturbing discovery came when Maya realized they were profiling customers. She noticed them paying particular attention to young women shopping alone, families with teenage daughters, and individuals who appeared vulnerable or isolated. They would note license plate numbers, follow customers to parking areas, and document information about shopping habits and schedules. Maya's federal training kicked in as she recognized the selection criteria traffickers used to identify potential victims. They targeted individuals who wouldn't be immediately missed: runaways, immigrants without local family, young women estranged from parents, and teenagers aging out of foster care. The grocery store provided perfect cover for this surveillance. These men could observe hundreds of potential victims each week while appearing to be ordinary customers conducting legitimate business. Maya's investigation took a dangerous turn when she realized the network was preparing to act. The men's purchases shifted from surveillance equipment to operational materials, restraints, vehicle supplies, and items used for temporary detention. Through careful observation, she identified their apparent target, Jennifer Morrison, a 19-year-old college student who worked part-time at the store's deli counter. Jennifer lived alone, had limited family contact, and followed predictable routines that made her vulnerable to abduction. Maya faced a complex tactical situation. Her cover prevented her from taking direct action or alerting local law enforcement without compromising an ongoing federal investigation. But Jennifer's safety was immediate and critical. She needed to protect Jennifer while gathering evidence that would expose the entire trafficking network, all without revealing her true identity or jeopardizing the broader investigation. Maya made a decision that would test every skill she developed during her years with the Bureau. Maya began by subtly altering Jennifer's schedule and routines. She created inventory problems that required Jennifer to work different hours, arranged for additional staff to accompany her during closing procedures, and ensured that Jennifer never left the store alone during times when the traffickers were conducting surveillance. To Jennifer and their colleagues, these appeared to be normal operational adjustments. Maya had established herself as someone who took workplace safety seriously, so her protective measures seemed like routine caution rather than specific threat response. Simultaneously, Maya began documenting everything. She photographed the men using security camera angles they couldn't detect, recorded their coded communications using equipment concealed in her cashier station, and mapped their operational patterns with the precision of federal surveillance. But the traffickers were experienced criminals. They recognized that their target had become less accessible and began adapting their tactics. Maya began by subtly altering Jennifer's schedule and routines. She created inventory problems that required Jennifer to work different hours, arranged for additional staff to accompany her during closing procedures, and ensured that Jennifer never left the store alone during times when the traffickers were conducting surveillance. To Jennifer and their colleagues, these appeared to be normal operational adjustments. Maya had established herself as someone who took workplace safety seriously, so her protective measures seemed like routine caution rather than specific threat response. Simultaneously, Maya began documenting everything. She photographed the men using security camera angles they couldn't detect, recorded their coded communications using equipment concealed in her cashier station, and mapped their operational patterns with the precision of federal surveillance. But the traffickers were experienced criminals. They recognized that their target had become less accessible and began adapting their tactics. The network's response was swift and dangerous. When Jennifer became difficult to isolate at work, they began following her home, learning her address and daily routines outside the store. Maya realized her protective measures had only delayed the inevitable. These men were committed to their target and had resources she couldn't counter through subtle manipulation alone. She made the decision to break cover. On a Tuesday evening, as Jennifer finished her shift and prepared to walk to her car, Maya noticed Mark Stevens and Carlos Martinez positioning themselves in the parking lot. David Kim was already in a van near the exit, engine running. Maya activated the emergency beacon concealed in her cashier name tag, a direct line to FBI tactical response teams. Then she abandoned her cover completely. "Jennifer," she called out, approaching the younger woman with urgency that couldn't be disguised. "Don't go to your car. Come with me right now." Jennifer looked confused and slightly frightened by Maya's sudden intensity. "What are you talking about? I need to get home." Maya grabbed Jennifer's arm gently but firmly. "I'm FBI Agent Maya Patel. You're in immediate danger, and I need you to trust me completely." Maya's emergency signal triggered a coordinated response that had been prepared for months. FBI tactical teams had been positioned around the store, waiting for exactly this moment when the trafficking network would reveal their operational methods. As Maya moved Jennifer to safety inside the store, federal agents moved to apprehend the three men. Mark Stevens was taken down in the parking lot before he could reach his vehicle. Carlos Martinez was arrested as he attempted to flee through the store's rear exit. David Kim surrendered when tactical vehicles surrounded his van. The operation netted more than just 3 individual traffickers. Searches of their vehicles and properties revealed evidence of a network spanning multiple states, with connections to international trafficking organizations. Maya's 18 months of patient observation had provided federal investigators with detailed intelligence about operational methods, communication systems, and victim selection processes that would be used to identify and prosecute trafficking networks across the country. The arrests made national news as one of the largest human trafficking busts in Colorado history. Federal prosecutors revealed that the network had been responsible for dozens of disappearances over the past 3 years, operating through seemingly legitimate businesses across multiple states. Maya's role in the investigation remained classified, protecting both her identity and the ongoing federal operations that would grow from the intelligence she gathered. Officially, she was described only as a federal agent working undercover. Jennifer Morrison learned that she'd been targeted for abduction and likely international trafficking. The knowledge was traumatic, but she also felt overwhelming gratitude toward the quiet cashier who'd risked everything to protect her. "I worked next to her for months," Jennifer told reporters. "She seemed so shy, so normal. I had no idea she was protecting me the whole time." After the arrests and trials concluded, Maya was reassigned to a new undercover operation in a different city. Her success at FreshMart had proven the effectiveness of long-term retail infiltration in combating organized crime. She left Denver quietly, with no fanfare or public recognition. Her replacement at FreshMart was told only that Maya had accepted a position elsewhere and preferred not to be contacted. Jennifer Morrison returned to work but requested transfer to the day shift, finding it difficult to feel safe during evening hours. The store implemented additional security measures and staff training programs about recognizing suspicious behavior. The 3 traffickers received federal sentences ranging from 25 to 40 years. The intelligence gathered from their operations led to arrests in 6 other states and the rescue of dozens of trafficking victims. But Maya's greatest victory wasn't the criminals she'd helped convict. It was Jennifer Morrison, who continued her college education, graduated with honors, and eventually became a social worker specializing in helping trafficking survivors. Maya Patel's story represents thousands of federal agents who work in deep cover, spending months or years maintaining false identities while protecting communities that never know they're being protected. They serve as teachers, store clerks, delivery drivers, and office workers, ordinary people doing ordinary jobs while watching for extraordinary threats. Their success depends on being so unremarkable that criminals feel safe revealing their activities around them. These agents sacrifice normal relationships, career advancement, and personal recognition to maintain covers that protect innocent people. They live double lives not for personal gain, but to serve a greater purpose that most people never realize exists. Maya's 18 months as a cashier represented the kind of patient, methodical police work that prevents crimes rather than just solving them. Her investigation didn't just catch traffickers, it dismantled systems and saved lives that would have been destroyed by criminal networks. The FreshMart investigation led to significant changes in how federal agencies approach human trafficking cases. Maya's methods became training templates for other undercover operations, and her intelligence gathering techniques were incorporated into federal investigative protocols. Grocery stores and retail chains across the country implemented training programs to help employees recognize trafficking indicators. The patterns Maya had identified became part of awareness campaigns that prevented countless additional crimes. But perhaps most importantly, Maya's work demonstrated that protection often comes from the most unexpected sources. The quiet cashier scanning groceries might be the only thing standing between a customer and a nightmare they'll never know they avoided. Maya's undercover work required sacrifices that extend far beyond professional considerations. For 18 months, she'd been unable to maintain genuine relationships, pursue personal interests, or build the kind of life most people take for granted. She'd watched coworkers develop friendships, romantic relationships, and career goals while knowing that her own life was temporary and artificial. Every conversation was calculated, every response was measured, and every emotion was filtered through the requirements of maintaining cover. The isolation of long-term undercover work affects agents in ways that training can't fully prepare them for. Maya had saved lives and dismantled criminal networks, but she'd also lost 18 months of genuine human connection. Federal agents like Maya receive psychological support and mandatory counseling to help process these experiences. But the fundamental reality remains. Protecting others sometimes requires sacrificing parts of yourself that can never be fully recovered. Maya Patel's work will never be fully acknowledged publicly. Her methods remain classified, her identity protected, and her achievements credited to unnamed federal agents. There will be no medal ceremonies, no public speaking engagements, and no books written about her specific contributions. This anonymity isn't accidental, it's essential. Maya's effectiveness depended on being forgettable, and her continued service requires that she remain invisible. But within federal law enforcement circles, Maya's work is studied and respected. Her investigation techniques are taught to new agents, her intelligence gathering methods are replicated in other operations, and her patient approach to long-term infiltration has become a model for undercover excellence. The trafficking network she dismantled would have continued operating for years, destroying dozens of additional lives. The victims who were never abducted will never know they were saved by a quiet cashier who remembered their faces and protected them from shadows. Today, Maya Patel works under a different identity in a different city, maintaining another cover while investigating another criminal network. Her current colleagues know her by whatever name and background the FBI has created for her newest assignment. She might be serving you coffee, processing your insurance claims, or teaching your children. Her presence in your daily life would be so unremarkable that you'd forget her immediately after your interaction. But Maya would remember you. If you appeared vulnerable, if something about your situation triggered her protective instincts, if criminals showed interest in you or your family, Maya would begin the quiet process of ensuring your safety. The woman who saved Jennifer Morrison continues saving people whose names she'll never learn, whose gratitude she'll never receive, and whose safety depends on her remaining invisible. Maya's story challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about the people we encounter daily. The cashier who seems disinterested might be processing information that could save your life. The employee who appears unremarkable might be remarkable in ways that would astonish you. Federal agents working undercover represent just one category of hidden protectors in our communities. Military veterans, off-duty police officers, trained medical professionals, and skilled civilians often blend into ordinary jobs while maintaining capabilities that emerge only when needed. We live surrounded by people whose true stories would surprise us, whose skills exceed what their circumstances suggest, and whose dedication to protecting others operates invisibly within the framework of everyday life. Jennifer Morrison learned this truth in the most dramatic way possible, through narrowly avoiding abduction by a trafficking network. But all of us benefit from similar protection that we never recognize, provided by people we never notice, in ways we never imagine. The next time you're served by someone who seems unremarkable, consider the possibility that they might be extraordinary. The quiet cashier scanning your groceries might be scanning for much more than prices, watching for patterns that could save lives, including your own. Maya Patel chose a career that requires her to be forgotten by the people she protects. Her success is measured not by recognition, but by crimes that never happen, victims who are never taken, and families who never lose their loved ones to darkness they'll never know existed. Where are you watching this story from today? Take a moment to appreciate the ordinary workers who serve you daily. Behind their professional smiles and routine service might be training, dedication, and vigilance that keeps you safer than you realize. If you found Maya's story of hidden heroism compelling, subscribe to Everyday Life Stories for more accounts of the extraordinary people living ordinary lives all around us. Sometimes the most important protection comes from the most unexpected guardians. The real heroes don't always wear badges or uniforms. Sometimes they wear name tags and work uniforms, protecting us one transaction at a time.